The most frustrating thing about fly fishing are the days when you spend all day out on the water, wading through the river, tying knots, casting, trying to find where the fish are, and you still, after hours of fishing, somehow wind up with nothing. It happens all the time. And for me, like usually when I go fishing, it's like I'll go to this little river by the house or by my work or a little pond by my work, and it's nothing crazy. It's just kind of like an impromptu. I'm gonna cast a few lines and see if I can get into anything. But then there's those times when you plan for a long time to go on this trip to a river that you've never been to. You've been researching all the good spots to go, where to put in, where to start wading, the different fish species behavior. You research all this stuff, and then you pick a day, and you're like, today's the day. I'm gonna go out, and I'm not gonna come back until I fish or until I catch something. And then you go out all day, you catch nothing. It's the most infuriating thing, and it makes you wonder, am I really that good at this? Or like, is it just me? Like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I didn't catch any fish because I'm just a bad fisherman. It's funny because you wouldn't think that fishing would bring up these emotions, but it does. Maybe I'm the problem. There's nothing more frustrating than coming up empty-handed. And the same is true for life. Like, there's been times in life when it's like I put all the chips in and like I'm going all out for this one thing, and I'm just praying and hoping that it works out. And then it just crashes and burns. That's happened multiple times in my life. One of the most obvious ones, when I was in high school, I wanted to go into the Air Force. My uncles had gone into the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force. My cousin was in the Air Force. My grandpa was in the Air Force. And so in my head, I'm going to the Air Force. I remember I went to my recruiter. They were like, you need to lose, I think it was like 35 pounds. And you need to get in shape and this, that, and the other. So I went to the gym, and every single day, I was running 3 to 5 miles a day. Probably can't tell now. Running 3 to 5 miles a day. I was eating what felt like nothing. And I ended up losing all that weight, getting in shape, jumping through all their hoops, taking tests, this, that, and the other, so that I could join the Air Force. And I remember I was at the mall by our house, and I got this phone call, and it was my recruiter. And I remember she told me, "Hey, I hate to inform you, but you didn't make it." The reason was for ADHD. I had stopped taking my medicine for ADHD a long time ago before that, like freshman year of high school. But once junior year came around and the ACT season came around, my dad was like, you're going to take these Adderall pills so that you can focus and study for your ACT. Whenever I went into the Air Force to hopefully sign up, they looked at my medical records and found that, and they didn't accept me because of it. I got that phone call. Oh, I was so mad. I was so mad at everyone and everything. There's nothing you could have told me to make it better at that point. I was angry. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just over it. And there was a small part of me that was like, man, it must have just been me. It's something about me that they just didn't want, when that wasn't really the case. Wasn't really the case. But so often in life, we have these dreams and goals and ambitions, and it's like, man, we go all out for it. We really do our best to achieve whatever it is, and then we just come up with an empty net. And that's a real part of life. There's a story at the end of the book of John. At this point, Jesus has been killed. He's been resurrected. Thomas has seen him. The disciples have seen him. They know that Jesus is alive. And this is John chapter 21. It said, after this, Jesus revealed himself again to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. He revealed himself in this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, Nathanael from Cana of Galilee, Zebedee's sons, and two other of his disciples were together. "I'm going fishing," Simon Peter said to him. "We're coming with you," they told him. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. When daybreak came, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not know it was Jesus. "Friends," Jesus called to them, "you don't have any fish, do you?" "No," they answered. "We'll cast the net on the right side of the boat," he told them, "and then you will find some." So they did, and they were unable to haul it in because of the large number of fish. The disciple, the one who Jesus loved, said to Peter, which is John, said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he tied his outer clothing around him, for he had taken it off, and he plunged into the sea. I love Peter. I love his fervor for the Lord. Sometimes he says stupid things and puts his foot in his mouth, but sometimes he just says the most profound and amazing things. He tied his outer clothing around him and he plunged into the sea. Since they were not far from land, about 100 yards away, the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. When they got out on land, they saw a charcoal fire there, with fish lying on it and bread. "Bring some of the fish you just caught," Jesus told them. So Simon Peter climbed up and hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. Even though there were so many, the net was torn. "Come and have breakfast," Jesus told them. None of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread, and gave it to them. He did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. And you have this wonderful story. It's very reminiscent of when Jesus called Peter and Andrew. They'd been out fishing all night. They had nothing in their nets. They hadn't caught anything. And Jesus steps into their boat to teach. And eventually he says, cast your nets down. They pull up this great catch of fish. Very reminiscent of Peter's call. But I love it because, again, they come up with empty nets. They have nothing. Probably disappointed. And then Jesus tells them, cast down on this side. And they do. They catch this whole thing. And it's this beautiful story where when they were at a loss, when they came up with empty nets, Jesus still had a plan. And that's the same for my life. Like with the Air Force, I look back and at the time I was so angry and bitter, and I was just over it. I was so over life at that point. But God's plans are always best seen in hindsight. And looking back at from where I am now, I look back and say, if I had got what I wanted, if I had joined the Air Force, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't be a youth pastor. I wouldn't have gotten to be a police officer. There's a lot of stuff that blessed my life that I wouldn't have been able to do if I had got what I wanted. But God had better plans for me. But from my own human perspective, I just couldn't see it. And that's true for a lot of life. What I love about youth ministry and college ministry is you see these people who are at this point in their lives and it's like they have no idea what's coming next. They might have some general idea, but really they don't know what's coming next. It brings a lot of anxiety for a lot of students. It brings a lot of stress because it's my whole life is right in front of me. I'm still a kid and I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And part of my job is helping them navigate it. But one of the best pieces of advice is just simply follow Jesus. Whatever you believe, whatever you think he wants you to do. Obviously use discernment and pray about it. But if you feel like he's calling you to something, go. Go. Even if it goes against your dreams, even if it goes against your plan for your life, whatever it is, if he's calling you to something, go. Sometimes we complicate those big decisions in our life when all we need to do is just say, what does Jesus want me to do? Sometimes there's more than one option of what Jesus might want you to do. Sometimes Jesus might be cool with you doing multiple different things. It takes discernment and it takes wisdom, but it's this awesome moment where you get to watch these students make these big life decisions, and then when they look back on their life, it's like, oh, wait a second. God was in the midst of it all. God was closing certain doors and opening others. God was moving in the background behind the scenes. I didn't even know it until all of a sudden you look up and you're like, wait a second, God was all over that. God's plans are always best seen in hindsight. The same is certainly true for my life with so many different decisions. I'm so glad that God shut doors in my face. I'm so thankful that God opened other doors. Because if it wasn't for those doors being shut and open, there's no telling where I would be. But I look back, and at the points in life when I just felt like I had an empty net, I just came up short and there's nothing I could do about it. At the time, it felt like I was in the middle of a storm. But all along, He had me right where He wanted me. And perhaps the same is true for you. What's really weird about making videos online and stuff is I never really know exactly who I'm talking to. I know a few of you watch consistently, but there's no telling who is going to stumble upon this video. But whoever you are, I want you to pause at wherever you're at and just ask yourself, where has God moved in my life? Maybe you're a newer Christian. Maybe you don't know. And maybe you haven't experienced that yet. Or maybe you don't know that it's happened, but it has and you just don't see it yet. Ask yourself, where has God moved in my life? And then ask why. And not only that, I also want you to think about, where is God trying to move in my life right now? What is God trying to do in my life right now that will change my outcome of life 10 years down the road? Because we know we serve a God who loves us, who cares for us. And I'm not teaching prosperity gospel. Just because you follow God doesn't mean you're going to have the job that you want and the money that you want and the health that you want. Certainly wasn't true for me. I didn't want the things that God gave me at the time. But after a while, I finally realized what He was doing. I was like, oh, this is exactly what I needed. But what is God calling you to do? How is God pushing you to move? Think about it and then respond. Don't just let this be another video that you see on YouTube that you just pass up and go, whatever. Actually respond to what God might be calling you to right now. Because there's many times in life when you're going to come up empty-handed. There's many times in life when you're going to come up with an empty net. But that's not the end. And God can take an empty net, like this story. He can take an empty net and make it a net full of fish. Might not be exactly what you thought or how you intended it to be or what you pictured, but He can take horrible things and make greatness out of them. Happens all the time. Just some thoughts, tight lines. See you next time.